we sense that the best way to exchange views is really to allow you to be direct, and then instead of making statements that would just be affirmation of positions, I think it's useful for you to first have a sort of summary of the difficulties and of the issues that we were discussing yesterday, and so that you have a clear view on what was discussed and then what we intend to propose as discussion, knowing that the membership decides on how we go about the discussions. So if you agree to that, we could then start briefing you on what was our closed session yesterday on Section 2. We started with Section 2C, which speaks about benefit sharing. The only reason being that we had not had a chance to thoroughly go through the portion of the annex on benefit sharing, whereas access had merited already some discussion. That was the reason. Knowing that it's always very difficult to pinch out of the annex one section while the others are not yet agreed upon, the use of terms, scope, and everything else. So it's always difficult. We have to start somewhere. We cannot afford, devising the best way to initiate or not initiate line by line. But we did start our discussions having text on screen, the text that was asked from the Bureau to produce. So our text was projected on the screen so people could react. And in our text, we initiate assigning some sort of a commitment to all participants. So there was discussion whether we should use the word participants, users, or recipients, because there is a concern that if you do not make sure that the sole fact that you access information already triggers benefit sharing, then there is a problem. There are others that prefer participants or even recipients because they think that is accurately indicating that there is a possibility of you to participate and then move on to become a fully committed to the system. So this is the discussion that was not yet final. So there is this idea of making the language that we are proposing a little bit more forthcoming in terms of not allowing the benefits to be possible or to be not come in. So some delegations were claiming that is not acceptable because it leaves the system to lose to deviations or loopholes or free rides. So it is necessary to make sure that whoever has access to the system will automatically be subject to a commitment to share benefits. Again, the list of benefits that we're discussing is still somewhat needs to be further discussed because there is doubt whether, for example, we would ask for any sort of fee or monetary contribution from all of the users, or whether we could categorize them. Those that or manufacturers have a specific paragraph in our annex. Those that are developers have not. So the discussion was also, does it make sense to start categorizing them? Or do we just concentrate on participants that are manufacturers and then make it a broader basket of all other participants? So this is the beginning of the seminar. I will allow my colleague, co-chair Matt Harper, also to continue. There are many other issues that are on the table. But I think it was at least a very productive and enriching discussion because instead of just making broad or general statements, there were some very specific language suggestions made by some delegations, and there were also some indications that we still need to discuss the implications of categorizing for the categories, for their nature. There are also the implication for research, for example, if you make it too onerous or too burdensome, let's say the criteria to access the system, and all of these issues are still on the table for benefit sharing, knowing that the benefits to be flowing from manufacturers or participants that are manufacturers, or easier to tackle, because still we have to be seeing more details when they sign the agreement with WHO in order to make sure that, and for example, if these agreements, when they elapse, what happens to the obligation that was attached to that agreement. So we're happy to see, as from the Bureau perspective, that we're now really testing the language to see if it makes sense, to see if it's making this system in a balanced way attractive, but also stepping out of the status quo. I think this was always in some of the, most of the delegations were concerned that if we simply keep the current state of play, then we will not be creating something that is meaningful. So we have to be a little bit more ambitious, changing the status quo, but not in a way that will disrupt completely the system that exists, however imperfect it is and inequitable. But again, I think no one was keen on starting from scratch or doing away with the existing networks or the exchanges that occur right now. But there was a concern of making that, at least as a transitional period, more attractive, in a way that when you move from having right now only influenza under the PIP framework and then move into all families of pathogens with pandemic potential, you automatically rate in a very a much larger system, and all sorts of concerns derive from this expansion of our scope. Matt, please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Tovar. Good morning, and for those online, good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I think you've already said the main points from yesterday afternoon's discussion, and thank you to all stakeholders for the input at the session yesterday morning. I think definitely that how do we categorise different types of participants or users, what's the right kind of proportionate contract agreement was a really good discussion, whether it's an individual researcher, a university, a manufacturer, how do we get that balance right. I think other points were the whether to and how to. There should be a link to access was a point that was raised by a lot of delegations. So that's one that's good to get others' thoughts. In terms of benefit sharing, fake and peacetime, another major theme. Monetary contributions, quite a few thoughts on that. And then a rather more overarching point, what do we need to deal with in this annex and what is for the COP, which obviously covers a number of points across the text. Obviously, the programme of work is always for IGWG members to decide, but I mean, obviously, in terms of access is something that we will be coming to. I think your input and expertise, actually, in terms of the role of databases, laboratories, this unique persistent identifier, how we ensure it's a system that works most effectively for all, is always incredibly helpful. And I know we as a Bureau have found a time to meet with relevant stakeholders, and we look forward to speaking more then, because I think the final thing to say is we obviously had a discussion yesterday morning on the role of stakeholders in this process, and we absolutely want to talk with you about how we best do that in a meaningful way. So I think that's probably it in terms of my comments, but I'll hand back to Ambassador Tovar.
Thank you, Matt. If I came just so allowing you then to freely ask us more questions, the intention today following our program of work is to continue with Section 2. There were some calls not to do that for some delegations that wanted us to start from the very beginning, the first line of our annex. But the work program was formally adopted by the membership, so we still have to see. The intention of the Bureau is to propose, if everybody is comfortable, in continuing with Section 2 and departing from Section C, which is benefit sharing, and tackling operation and also access access that is both material and sequence information. So that's sections A and B. And time permitting C, we stay the whole day. That is a proposal under Section 2. So these are the proposals that we're going to start at 9:30 asking the membership. Now I would like to offer the floor to all those that wish to ask questions about what we're doing, what we intend to do, but also make statements of the nature that you would like to. Thank you.
Those online, you think you've lost volume. We're just waiting for the first speaker, which we now have, but somebody's standing between me and the sign, so I can't quite. Pandemic Action Network, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the download of what happened yesterday. It would be great to hear a little bit more detail, if possible, on the kinds of options you discussed for potential stakeholder engagement, and we remain ready. I think it's fair to speak on behalf of partners that we work with to work in several different ways, whether there's different sessions that we could attend or smaller briefings on specific issues. We remain ready to be flexible on that, and of course we always stand by the principle that we would want to have access to the discussions on an ongoing basis, and we thank all the member states that have supported that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, firstly, I'm always grateful for this first speaker who breaks the silence, so thank you. So the completely honest answer to your question is that we did not have a substantive discussion about that yesterday afternoon, but that is precisely what we want to be talking through with stakeholders to go through those options. And on that note, I'm just going to pass to Paida.
Good morning, distinguished delegates. Just to announce that the co-chairs will be having a briefing session with relevant stakeholders this afternoon at 5 p.m. Geneva time. It will be held in Salle V and also on Zoom. During the day, the Secretariat will circulate the Zoom link to all the relevant stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Paida. See, the idea is not only a briefing, which we're already doing now, but also we asked the membership, and they granted us, there was no objection for the Bureau to further pursue with the stakeholders ways of allowing an interaction that would be more meaningful than a simple half an hour in the morning, which is, what we're doing currently. And explore what other ways are possible, short of not yet allowing you to follow as observers the full discussion. So we have emphasized the importance of having this interaction with relevant stakeholders. There might be some other ways of us making that meaningful while respecting the member states that still need, they're still not in agreement with allowing full participation in all of the sessions. The floor is open.
Thanks. I think just to add that obviously we hope other Bureau members can join, but there may be another meeting at the same time. So, but I know every Bureau member would want to be there. So just to stress that. I think we have the Third World Network. Sorry, you're hidden behind as well, but thank
you. Thank you, Co-Chair. To begin with some of the substantive issues, it is important that access is subjected to obligations, sharing, benefit sharing, and that is an integral part of having an ABS regime as such. This shows the importance of focusing on the access side of benefit sharing, and we have observed in some fora some confusions regarding this, because many people try to see that benefit sharing triggers immediately from access. What we actually mean is benefit sharing obligation gets assigned to access, right? The way you deliver benefits, the way you deliver profits, or products or profits, etc., can happen at a later stage. But the obligation needs to be clear, accepted at the time of access. Now, we wish to clarify some of the points which we heard yesterday. We heard some databases provide identifiers, especially the INSDC collaboration. 2020 UK Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology notes that while this meta tag for geographic location was existed since 1998, it became a required field for environmental samples in 2011. And then in 2023, INSDC gradually started making this mandatory, but exemptions still allow submitters to omit country information based on simple self-declarations. Now, the field geographical location refers to the place of isolation, not the country of origin. The field geographical location defines, so what happens when a pathogen specimen gets isolated in Germany from a patient clinical sample, say from another country, Colombia or Bangladesh, the sequence information may appear as German in origin, right? Subject to data submitters' interpretation of the field. And the documents in 2020 and 2022 shows that only 16% of data in INSDC has any country of information, despite existence of this meta field from 1998. So this shows why leaving databases to themselves does not support effective realization of country of origin rights. We need international legal intervention to address the database behavior to secure country of origin rights. Now, we also heard regarding yesterday that CBD has some decision against traceability and user registration. We have multiple times clarified that there is no decision against introducing traceability or user registration. On the contrary, the recent CBD decisions emphasize that publication of sequence data must comply with national laws, and parties hosting databases must ensure such compliance to implement the decision of CBD, which would in turn mean parties should ensure databases from their jurisdiction to ensure compliance with national laws, as well as any ABS arrangements in international organizations like WHO. We urge member states and stakeholders to uphold accountability, transparency, and good data governance. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks so much. Are there any other speakers? Yeah, UNICEF, please.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can indeed.
Excellent. So thank you very much for allowing us to contribute. Unfortunately, I will not be able to join this afternoon stakeholder briefing session because of previous commitment. But maybe one proposal I would like to raise is the possibility of providing written comments on the draft for stakeholders. It allows us to provide on all aspects and all sections of the annex, as well as can guide also the discussion between the member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and absolutely written statements are always very welcome. Thank you. John Hopkins Centre for Health Security, please.
Thank you so much and good morning. Thanks for this briefing. I wanted to underscore TWN's Third World Network's comments about geolocation and that there are various interpretations when accessing that information about what geolocation refers to and confirm that that is different, and some scientists do interpret it to mean country of isolation, not country of origin, and agree that that is a significant issue. The other thing I just wanted to underscore in relation to this access and why benefits sharing should tie to access, and why that's really part, I guess, logistically of the user registration terms of use, but also because scientists are not a monolith. We've often heard discussions about scientist perspectives that really are global north perspectives. And when we're thinking about benefits sharing that are equitable and around the globe, that includes appropriate recognition and credit for scientists, particularly from the global south, but of countries of origin, and that when that data is shared to colleagues around the world, that there is appropriate accreditation and credit as parts of that benefit sharing, even if we're not looking at the benefit sharing out of products or profits. So I think I really just want to encourage this idea that, you know, scientists aren't a monolith, and they are around the world, and that is why benefit sharing is so critical to build that capacity and that recognition globally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to go to the Leibniz Institute at DSMZ.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, co-chair. I wanted to follow up specifically on the questions around users and how and whether they should share benefits that was noted at the top of the briefing. I wanted to full-throatedly support that all users should share benefits. This is a principle that's been established since 1992, and if you use it, you should share benefits. The fundamental question is what types of benefits should be shared, and whether that system that enables benefit sharing is compatible with existing scientific practices. So I would really encourage parties, for example, to turn to the annex of the Nagoya Protocol. There's 17 different types of non-monetary benefits. That's a list that was many nights of negotiations. And I really think there's a lot there that we could pick up on. For example, the sharing of research and development results, collaboration, cooperation, contribution in scientific research and development programs, biotech research activities, and then also what I heard a lot yesterday, participation in product development. Those are many non-monetary benefits that can be, I think, listed. Now, whether academic and non-commercial users should be able to or be made to share monetary benefits is fundamentally up to those public funders that pay for our research. So in my case, my salary is paid through the federal and state governments of Germany. The research grants that I have, none of them allow me to spend money into an international fund. And indeed, the CBD decision explicitly under paragraph 9 of the annex says that academic and non-commercial users and databases should not pay monetary benefits, full stop. And again, I've negotiated dozens of Nagoya Protocol bilateral agreements, and in none of them have we ever been asked to, nor have we been actually administratively able to share monetary benefits. I would, given the new comments on identifiers, love to just jump in and offer a specific website from the INSCC that can be helpful to distinguish. The geographical origin is defined by the INSCC databases as intending to provide a reference to the site where the source organism was isolated or sampled. Regions and localities should be indicated where possible. Note that the physical geography of the isolation or sampling site should be represented in another metadata field called isolation_source. So the databases are quite clear and explicit. There are a number of reasons why you wouldn't put this information. That is many human data for privacy reasons, which is over 13% of the data set. You would never put that because you don't want to have that level of identifying information in many cases. For many types of model organisms, for endangered species, there's good reasons why sometimes the level of resolution on geographical provenance information. But for pathogen data, this should be automatic. This should definitely be in there. And I don't think that's actually a contested fact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I mean, just to stress, I'm not, for the sake of being brief and more can speak, I'm not commenting on each, but we are absolutely taking all those points and noting them down. So thank you. South Centre, please.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question, as was presented, about some of the elements you were discussing yesterday with regards to benefit sharing. I wonder if, in addition to considering the type of users, if there's also been consideration to the broader question about when there are commercial activities, and this might be different from the concept of what kind of entity. So we might have an entity constituted as a nonprofit or academic institution, but that there might be activities that are commercial. And so how would you treat these? For example, if there's licensing, which may or may not include, for example, patent rights, and then there are royalties that will derive in substantial profit that is made, even though it might be reinvested for non-commercial purposes, this is a commercial activity. So would that be also something that would be included for the purposes of considering benefit sharing? And we know, for example, in the case of particular licenses, as in the COVID pandemic, that these had significant income gains. So how could we consider those revenues within the scope? Thank you. Is that something that has been considered yesterday? Thank you.
Thank you so much, South Centre. And yes, I mean, the short answer is a number of speakers talked about the commercial versus non-commercial use. So that's certainly something that is being considered, and licensing was also referenced. So yes, is the short answer. Thank you. Any more speakers, please, Paida?
Yes, thank you very much for really being very specific in your comments. I think both it will guide us in our discussions today on how to see first the environment currently existing for databases. For example, the question of how we don't want this system to be transactional, number one. It is not that I do something as a country or a lab and then I immediately have to have my own benefit. This is not the idea. It's a collective sharing of benefits, but based on recognition of those that took the trouble to alert, identify, and inform and feed into the system either sequence information or PABS material. So this discussion will continue now and seeing how we can better. I think there is a growing consensus that some sort of connection with all users to the system must be. The question is, it's triggering event is having access. And then you move to how you incorporate that on a legally binding instrument of some sort. Is it always going to be a contract? Can we think of different ways of legally binding these users, all of them? And then the types of contributions that would be flowing into the system would then be of diverse nature. So we're building, and thank you also for suggesting that we look outside and see what other benefits, monetary and non-monetary, could be included in our possible indicative list. But I think we're also seeing not only the triggering moment, the legal instrument, but also the duration of these commitments and the differentiation between these commitments according to the type, non-commercial, commercial, size and nature of the user. All of this is very useful. Today we're going to start talking about identifiers, possible coordination or oversight of existing databases and how to ensure that the system relies on this flow of information, but following some terms of access, some registration, and some security norms and criteria. So we don't have much time left, and I have a request from the Third World Network, as long as you're very brief, because we would like to start our session very punctually at 9:30. Thank you. Third World Network.
Thank you, Co-Chair. This is just regarding clarification regarding the metafield isolation source, because today we are going to discuss about identifiers. So isolation source, according to INSDC, describes physical, environmental, or local geographical source of the biological sample from which the sequence was derived. And the examples given is rumen isolates from the standard petaled ration, denitrifying activated sludge from carbon-limited continuous reactor, permanent Antarctic sea ice, etc. So the problem is not what the qualifiers or the metadata field is. It's a problem that there is no direct requirement to the submitters to mention country of origin. So then it would be easier. Thank you.
Yes, and I think there is a call from some delegations, and many actually, saying that that's unfair. So that's why we have to adjust what is currently acceptable or currently existing as a system to see if it is feasible and is desirable as a consensus. Then we would move to something that would really be equitable in the treatment of those that have been feeding information into the system that we are creating. Right now, I would like to thank you on behalf of the Bureau, and we look forward to our meeting at 5 o'clock this afternoon. This meeting is then adjourned.